Hey friends, it's Don Nicholson, great nephew of Dyno Don Nicholson, and I am here with Jon Kaase. We're here at his amazing shop in Winder, Georgia. I'm not even going to try and explain all of Jon's accomplishments and all the amazing things he's done. You can just Google that yourself. Anyway, I'm going to be off camera asking Jon some questions, and we're going to kind of talk about Dyno Don's life, some of his career and history stuff, and specifically also about the '76 Mustang too. That we have the car here, and Jon spent some time looking it over and teaching me a ton about it. So here we go. So let's first start off by talking about you and Dyno Don's time together. What were you doing before you started working with Dyno Don?
Well, immediately before, the 2 years before, I was racing a Pro Stock car with a partner that I had, Larry Ford, and that's how I got to know Dyno really well, was racing that car. And we were racing against him, and we were always asking him questions and stuff, and he was good enough guy to really help us a lot more than he should have.
As a competitor.
As a competitor, well, you might want to do this, you might want to do that, that port doesn't look quite right, stuff like that. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I hear others tell stories like that. It's like, letting another competitor use an engine and stuff. True,
well,
huh?
Yeah, we actually put one of our engines in his car once.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in 1976, and it ran good. He qualified 4th or 5th with it or something at one of the NHRA races, but it was an engine I built in my garage, so it ran good.
Wow.
And that probably had something to do with me going to work for him.
Okay, well, that's the next question. So how did you come to crew chief for him?
Yeah, well, and it's just the way, how one thing leads to another. And I was helping Mike Valerio, a friend of mine in Ohio. We went to a SEMA show when they were still in Anaheim, California.
Mm-hmm.
This is end of 1976. And I was out of college, I was done. We were kind of building another Pro Stock car. And really, after I went to California, and Dyno needed somebody to help him on his, because he was in between helpers. He had no crew chief, no engine builder, nothing.
Well, even though he was, like one of the main guys.
Yeah, and the timing was right for me, because one thing, I really wanted to get out of Ohio because the winter was coming, and it was a good year to do it because they had a terrible winter in '77. I missed it all. So,
Nice.
so the fact I was sort of a little bit enamored with California at the time because I had just been out there. The weather was nice, and I knew the equipment, and I knew I could probably do the job for him. And he needed somebody, and I was done with college, and the whole deal was just the timing was good. I figured I'll do this for a little while.
Got it. That's a perfect fit. Having worked side by side with Dyno, what did you observe in Don that made him unique in drag racing history?
Well, he was a good thinker. He about everything he looked at was how could I make this better, stuff like that. And a lot of us are like that.
Yeah.
But he was good about that, and the thing is, he was so good with his fans and everything. He's not only a good thinker and mechanic and racer and driver, but he was real personable with his fans. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody any better than him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He'd take his time, and he treated everybody the same. And he'd be really nice to people, and he'd answer their questions, and he'd take pictures with them and sign autographs. That's a big deal.
Yeah, with all the pressure, and even as you were talking about between rounds and thrashing.
It gets you an instant fan, if they weren't a fan before. And if you treat them lousy, it gets you an instant not fan.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's right.
And that's one of the reasons why I got hooked up with him, because he was nice and respectful with me when I was just somebody that was hanging around asking questions.
Yeah, and somebody that you might square off against, even. Yeah. Huh. So, what engines did you develop with Don? Or what couple of engines did you guys work on together?
Mostly was the NHRA stuff, which was the 351 Cleveland.
Okay.
So a lot of them were a little smaller, just because they had to weigh more than anything else per inch at the time, and so we built them a little bit smaller. They were 342 inches,
Okay.
mostly for weight. You know, they didn't run better because they were smaller. You know, they ran better. The car ran better because they were light.
Got it.
You know, because it was like 7.3 pounds per inch. So if it was 10 inches smaller, it was 73 pounds lighter.
Got it. So that was the formula. It's
And
just
73 pounds was more of a help get rid of it than it was losing 10 inches.
got it.
So that's why we made them smaller.
Better lose the weight than try and make the power.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So yeah, but then the big match race motors too.
Well, yeah, we built it was a 5/16 inch, all aluminum 460 style wedge, and we had to have something bigger for the match race and stuff because the other guys like Jenkins and the Edwards guys that we raced against, they all had 500 inch, 496 stuff like that, big Chevys and we tried to do it with 400 inch Clevelands and all that. They were aluminum block, but they were sort of fragile and we just didn't. They weren't as good. We couldn't make up 100 cubic inches, so we had to go to the bigger engine.
So for those races, was it just what were the rules? Was it
There weren't any rules. It was just it was
it's
like
a door slammer and
Englishtown, Budds Creek or something. They'd have a pro stock match race. And this was really before anybody ran nitrous on anything, so there weren't pro mod cars.
okay,
So as far as door slammers went, these were the quickest cars there were.
got it.
There wasn't anything quicker than a big inch match race pro stock car.
Okay. In competition, who did you two enjoy facing and defeating the most?
Well,
Was there some rivalries there?
We ran Jenkins probably more than anything.
Okay.
Jenkins versus Dyno Don at Budds Creek, there was a huge crowd. And I think we sold more t-shirts than we did make money getting paid to be their match racing,
The fans really showed up,
fan
huh?
base in Budds Creek and some of those little tracks like Summer Duck and even Englishtown and that. But Jenkins was a big deal, Sox was a big deal. The one guy we always had trouble with he was a really good racer, was Don Carlton, Mopar Missile, and then he had his own cars. He was tough, he was a good racer.
Was Glidden in that, or was he more because
he didn't do near as much match racing.
Okay.
He was concentrating on his small inch NHRA stuff. I don't even really remember if we hardly ever raced a match race.
Okay, because that's what his focus was, whereas Dyno's was go where the money is.
Yeah, Jenkins, Carlton, Sox, Lee Edwards. Sometimes they have a big show, they'd have a bunch of cars.
Okay.
But and I know I'm leaving a few out probably, but there were some pretty good guys, with big engines that were hard to beat. Lee Edwards was always good.
Okay, that's awesome. When I visited you a few months ago, you'd shared some about how you having crossed paths with Dyno changed your life, and what has been the outcome of you and Dyno having worked together.
Well, it's one of those deals where, if I hadn't gone to work for him or teamed up with him, I'd have a completely different family today. Right? Because I met my wife at Englishtown.
Wow.
So like that, I wouldn't even been there.
Yeah.
Okay? So I wouldn't have the same family. Your kids, your wife, your kids, your grandkids, they'd all be different.
Yeah. And so you were engine builder before meeting Dyno, and then you continued after. So at what point did you guys part ways?
Well, at the end of '79, we were. The thing is, he really didn't have enough, financial backing.
Okay.
And the sponsors weren't really that good by then. So there wasn't going to be a lot of money there for me.
Got it. Yeah. You had to do what you had to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And but we still got along good and everything. It wasn't anything. We didn't have any problems. It was just that we were kind of, in a way, we were kind of going nowhere. Plus, we had won the championship, and sometimes that takes a little bit out of things, you know?
That makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, hey,
Drive a state away.
yeah, you can do, yeah, give me a little bit of time, okay?
All right.
But we can use the one machine, you can get it on,
All
but
right.
the other one I'm stuck on right now,
Okay.
okay? Thanks. That's why he didn't know.
Oh, that's all good. Well, that dovetails in nicely. Let's talk about the 77 NHRA season in Pro Stock. How or why were you guys so dominant? Was it the driver? Was it the car? The engine?
He always had everything he needed. He just didn't have it all on the same day.
Okay.
Okay, you know, he drove good, good to great, and his engine stuff was pretty good, and his cars were pretty good. It's just that he didn't really have the help.
Okay.
And sometimes it was just whoever happened to be helping him that weekend. You know, he'd have some free help and stuff, and it just, things didn't quite get gel. You know, you had, so, you know, my only thing was I don't like failures. So my thing was I tried to keep everything running and keep it together and do everything where it wouldn't have any mishaps.
Got it. So you're getting down the
then
track every time.
When we got that part and the longevity or whatever, and it really didn't do that much. Okay, it's not like I brought in all kinds of new equipment, new engine parts. We just took everything he had and made a sensible approach to putting it together and keeping it running. And there was just a little bit of magic that started there. I can't tell you why. You know, just he had everything he needed. There was just always something that tore up or didn't work right.
And it just really clicked that season. I mean, as far as, you know, the low qualifiers, almost every time. And,
Well, not, but, and Glidden was, you know, a good
Glidden was
part of
there.
even that year, Glidden was better than us,
Okay.
you know. But especially in the beginning of the year, we were, you know, number 1 or 2 qualifier a lot.
Mhm.
And it made me look good, and I didn't do anything, okay? All I did was assemble stuff that he had.
Okay. Got it. So, what was your, I mean, but you were doing everything, right? I mean, between you and Dyno.
Just the two of us, yeah.
So, yeah, every aspect of that car,
Yeah.
you guys are
Load the
together.
truck, unload the truck, get the tools out, you know, take the motors out, take them apart, do all the work on them, put them back together, drive to the next deal.
Wow.
Sometimes he'd fly and I'd just drive.
Okay.
You know, so yeah, it was a bare minimum, but it wasn't just us. There was a lot of teams like that.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
There wasn't money to have a bunch of people helping.
Got it. Yeah, and all the crew expenses and,
Mhm.
yeah. Huh. That makes sense.
Yeah, the budgets were small.
And the purses were small too? I mean, it was...
Yeah,
it was
but unfortunately, they're probably worse today.
really...
Well, maybe not exactly on paper, but you know, but as far as expenses versus, you know, I think probably 1977, what you won at a race versus what you spent was a way better percentage than it is today.
Wow.
Because what you spend is so huge.
Yeah, yeah. Huh.
You might spend 10 times as much to race, and the purse is twice as big.
Okay. Wow. So with the 77 season, other than the actual championship, what was another highlight of the season? Anything else that sticks out?
Well,
Certain match or certain race or certain victory?
you know, I think just really just getting through the end of the year and getting the championship run and staying in the lead. You know, and there is one thing that we did that, you know, Glidden was tough, but I don't, for some reason his points weren't as good as Jenkins's, Larry Lombardo driving Jenkins's car. And in '77 we ran the points races also, and there was like 5 or 6 points races for each division, and you could get points for, you know, and it went toward the national event points also. So your national championship not only went from how you did at the championship races, the big races, but there were 5 what they call points races in there, which was like the division races. They're smaller.
So by you guys hustling and making it to those races,
Well, yeah, and we did good at ours, but the one thing we did that it worked out okay, and we could have looked foolish, but we went all the way up to Epping, New Hampshire, to Jenkins's points race,
Oh wow.
where we couldn't get points, but we won the race and kept him from getting points.
Got it.
You know? And
Yeah.
Roger, line 1
ultimately,
check. Line
it
4,
didn't make
called
the
you yesterday.
difference.
Roger, line 1 check.
Right.
It didn't make the difference at the end of the year, but it could have, because at the
Got
time we were virtually
Points
tied.
were right there.
So we drove all the way to New Hampshire from Atlanta
Wow.
to race Jenkins, and we won the race and set the record and beat him, but he didn't get us many points because we were there.
So it was a blocking.
And it probably didn't sit real well with him, but it wasn't a bad move either for us, because we were trying to win the championship and he'd never won before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it, you know, and that was maybe one of the highlights, was winning that points race at Epping.
That's cool.
You know, because we ran good, but we beat him in the final or whatever, and we just
That's
I know
awesome.
LeVardo wouldn't talk to me for a long time after that.
Oh, I love it. So the '76 Mustang 2 that you won the '77 championship with, was it similar? Was the car similar to the competition, or were there some competitive advantages that you had over the others with this car? Like, was there anything that, in looking back, oh yeah, because we made that tweak or that with the car?
I think it was just, it's a good car.
Mm-hmm.
For the time, it was a good car. It wasn't better than anybody else's, I don't think.
Okay.
But you gotta remember that back then, the tracks were pretty horrible.
Mm.
You know, they're asphalt starting lines. They have big dips when you're staging, and you know,
Wow.
they weren't like they are today. They weren't. There was no such thing as prep. You know, the only prep was the cars running on.
Got it.
You know, so unfortunately we didn't have a lot of power, so you wouldn't just overpower the track going down and crash in fourth gear or something.
Mm.
But they were a little tricky. You know, and a good driver was essential.
Hmm. Yeah. So let's get into specifically to the '76 Ford Mustang 2. Do you remember when and where you debuted the car?
The car that we have here.
Yeah.
Well, that car was.
Oh, so you weren't
No, I
working
didn't.
with him
The
yet.
first
That's
year
right.
he had that car, I did not work on.
Okay, that's right.
I was racing against him.
Okay.
Yeah, but I didn't drive. My partner Larry Ford drove.
Okay.
But yeah, that car was new the year before.
Got it. That's right. That makes sense. Well, yeah. So you didn't have any experience with the '74 Mustang 2.
Mhm.
It was already gone down the road.
Right.
When the '78 car came, was it pretty much the same car, or do you remember any? Were there any advances in
Well,
technology
it had
or
a
anything?
different front. It had a strut front end, a Christian strut,
Okay.
which was just coming into vogue right then. And whether they're better or not, they were a little lighter because it had a wheel with a spindle and not 5 lugs and stuff like that. But they were really a lot better because there was more room to work on it. Better room for headers and stuff like that.
Huh. Okay. So the front clip was different enough. Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't like it had something special because everybody else had the same thing.
Got it.
Jenkins has the same stuff a year or two ahead of us.
Okay.
The SRD cars that they had were like that.
Okay.
Yeah, they were all lamb struts, I told them. They were cool. And that's almost exactly the same thing we run today.
Okay. So that's really when that came in. Yeah.
You buy a new car today, it might have different valving or something, but it's
Sure.
exactly the same method of doing the front end.
Okay. Okay.
So it's still 40 plus years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good.
As you guys ran the different series, each with their unique rules, plus match racing the Mustang 2, you'd showed me some of the things that you would change out, but what would you change out, and how long would it take you to reconfigure the car? And what were the two
match racing
extremes?
to-
Yeah, so was NHRA like the most restrictive and heaviest and smallest
And
motor?
NHRA had all glass.
Okay.
Glass windshield, deck lid, side, it had steel doors. So they had steel doors with glass, windshield, deck lid. And we would change all that. We changed doors, and also the glass was in the doors. We'd put fiberglass doors on with plexiglass, Lexan windows, and then we changed the windshield, and we changed the rear deck lid and all that,
Okay.
just for weight.
Okay. And then just engine, but as far as that was kind of it between.
Well, big engine.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
but even with the big engine, the car was probably lighter because they were aluminum blocks.
Okay.
The big engine was. So between that and all the glass and the doors and stuff, yeah, it was probably 100 pounds lighter with the big engine, match race weight than an NHR car.
How long would it take you to change back and forth? Do you remember? Or custom it?
The windshield was the biggest thing. The other things you just put them on.
Okay.
You know, the windshield take you several hours.
Got it. And he'd do it for the 20 pounds or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, he would be madder about losing a match race than he would doing lousy at an NHRA national event.
Oh,
the
really?
match races were, oh man, would he get mad. He loved it. He had to win and he couldn't stand to lose.
That was his thing, huh?
Yeah.
Tell us as much as you can or as much as you want to about these Cleveland motors. Displacement and the port work that you do.
They're a little bit, today, you look back and say, man, I could have done this, but we were working on what we had. You couldn't always we didn't always have steel cranks in them, some of them had cast cranks, but they were machined for Chevy journals and some of that. We also had some stuff we put Boss 02 cranks in, and we had them remachined where they had a little more stroke, but they were steel cranks. They had real small bearings and stuff, they had small mains, and I think they were a little better like that. But the heads were, for a 60-year-old engine, the heads were superb, And there was room for improvement, like we moved the exhaust port around, put that plate on the outside, but even the Cleveland head is pretty much the foundation for a lot of race stuff today.
Really?
It's not that much different than the original 1968 Cleveland stuff. It's the NHRA Pro Stock heads. But if you look at them, the valves are about same angles and places.
Interesting.
That was a huge thing.
So what was your guys' approach as you would try new stuff? Was it at the track or were you dynoing engines and
No, we
changing out?
never did dyno anything when I worked for him.
Okay,
No,
interesting.
We were all just.
Roger, line 1, Brad, spoke to you last night. Roger, line 1.
We didn't have any. We didn't have anything to go by.
Okay.
We didn't ever have any dynoing. You just.
And like you said, as you were telling me a little bit ago, no computers obviously, and you get a time slip with your quarter mile and the rest of it's driver. What did the driver remember?
Yeah, whatever the driver remembers or felt.
That's
In
unreal.
some ways, that's better.
Yeah.
I'd almost like to see that today sometimes, but because computers wisens up everybody.
Yeah.
I drove lousy or
facts. Yeah.
the clutch was slipping 2/3 of the time. I didn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
And a really good driver kind of feels that, and guys are just starting out wouldn't.
Yeah. So shift points. He's going off of experience and what he's feeling with the car. It's not like he's going off of hard data
Right.
from the dyno room.
Yeah.
Interesting. What kind of RPM?
We think about 9,500.
Okay.
Yeah. And also those cars, you didn't put them on the floor with an RPM limiter on the starting line. You had to kind of feel your way around and rev it up to what you think it would like and leave.
Because of traction or because
No,
just
didn't.
because of
The
power management?
electronics wasn't there.
Got it.
You didn't have RPM limiters.
Wow.
If you broke something, it went up as high as it would go.
You found its limit.
Yeah, you found it right.
What you named some of the brands earlier that you ran on it. I mean, obviously it's Holly carburetors, Edelbrock manifolds that you guys modified heavily though. Excel ignition.
Yeah, Excel. I don't know that we ever ran anything different. We were just starting to run some MSD stuff at
Okay.
the end there. And, if you're not having trouble with ignition, more spark usually doesn't make any difference. The Excel stuff works fine.
Okay. And factory cranks that you would. What
Yeah,
rods?
passenger car cranks that were offset ground or they were just ground down for Chevy rods because the Ford journals were awful big.
Okay.
And, it was just just too big to build aluminum rod around and stuff, you know, they ground them down, but they would still hang in there pretty good. You didn't break them too often.
Rods, pistons. Did he have favorites? Did you guys have favorites?
Depends on whatever company Dyno was
Okay.
happy with at the time. We used Venolia pistons for a long time. Almost everything that Dyno had Venolia pistons. And sometimes we had Venolia rods, but I also used Charles and Albert rods.
Okay. Favorite cam? Like whoever was sponsoring?
He did a lot of stuff with Crowder.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he was buddies with Bruce Crowder and Dave Crowder and
Okay,
stuff.
so that's the relationship.
Yeah, and that stuff worked okay. Yeah.
Very good. As the 77 season went through, were there much changes made to the car? Like, did you guys find? You told me before, yeah, you'd set sway bar height or wheelie bar height.
That's the only thing we ever adjusted really was we adjust the wheelie bars depending on how it left. You know, if it wanted to leave and go to the right, we'd take bite out of the other tire or whatever to make it go straight.
Okay.
You know, most of the time it would either go straight or they go left. You know, so if it goes left, you know, you take the right wheelie bar down a little bit, and then that would take and even up the traction, and then it would go straight.
And that was just with clevis pins on
Yeah.
different settings, so it wasn't dial turn.
We didn't have right and
Screwed,
left like
yeah.
they have today. They have right and left on those,
Okay.
and they get up there and adjust them. But we had to just take the pin out and turn the clevis a little bit.
Oh, okay, got it. I can picture that. Got it. Good. Well, thank you for that. Why don't you walk us through these pictures, and maybe I'll just look over your shoulder, and you can tell me what's going on in these.
Well, I know that this, like we discussed, that was like the last burner. That was a brand new car we built at the beginning of '78.
Okay, so this is the 78
and
car.
It was a beautiful car. Had really nice paint and stuff. And I worked on it all winter with him. And we had run it at Gainesville, and then after that, this was the big engine because he's got the big scoop. And this was at Gadsden, Alabama. And this was the last burnout that car ever did. Because we, you know, when he got down the track, he was racing against Jenkins. When he got down track, he swung it around and put it in the guardrail, and it ate the thing up.
And that was it.
Yeah, no, we
That was
didn't
the end of-
destroy it, but we didn't ever run it again. He sold it.
Okay.
But it was hammered pretty good. But he said that the motor felt kind of weak and the water burned out. And then when he left the line, it was, I mean, we didn't, the first run on a big engine ever.
Wow.
And he was kind of babying it down, and he finally put his foot in it all the way. And the minute he put his foot in it, looped it around, and ate the guardrail up.
So did it do a couple of NHRA races before this, do you think?
We ran it at Gainesville.
Okay.
And that was the only time. We ran it one race. And so we had a brand new car and we destroyed it.
Wow. Wow.
Yep. But I remember it well. I think it was the only time I was ever at a racetrack that I sat down and cried.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Because we've been
All
up,
that work.
We've been up like a whole night, you know, working on it and getting there and all this stuff, and it was just more than your nerves could take, you know. And I thought he was hurt bad, and Jenkins came over and he said, "No, he's good."
Wow.
Yep. This one?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. Let's run through all of them.
This is Spring National, so that's Columbus, Ohio. That was second race he won that year. That's all I can say about it. We did good.
So that's
That was
you,
I
the
think it was
Winston Girl, Dyno, Wally Parks, and who's the other gentleman with the
Oh,
captain?
that's Dave DeWitt.
Dave
Friend of
DeWitt,
ours from
okay.
Jacksonville. Yep. He was one of the free helpers, but he was a great.
Okay,
great,
so that's an example of just he'd show up and he'd be
Yeah.
there to help and
Yeah, great help. We had a lot of guys like that. There's really not a lot to say about this one. I think I'm not sure where this is. Might be in Indianapolis. But,
okay.
But just a nice picture.
Okay, so how nerve-wracking you holding on to the rear of the car as it's doing a burnout? It was just part of the job?
Yeah.
Never got hurt,
just
never-
Mostly keeping it from going crooked.
Okay.
Yep. Because sometimes they would swing around on you. And today we really don't do that. But that's Indy, 1977. He won that race. But and I'm not sure about this one. Sometimes I have a tendency to look in the background.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
And see where you are and everything. But that was also, I could tell by the car number, it was 1977.
Okay.
But, and this is India. I think we might have crashed that car also.
Okay. Again, people in the background, blue shirt.
That one, I'm like, oh, that's George Henderson that worked
Okay.
for him. But, and I'm not really exactly, okay, I know what this is. This was at World Finals in about 78 or 9, I guess, and we were changing, this was the staging lanes, because you did all your work in the staging lanes, because you didn't want to lose your spot.
You're not in the pits there. Wow.
Because they didn't run the whole line out, they only ran like 6 cars at a time. So we were changing engine in the staging
Roger, line
lanes.
1, Glenn Evans.
And then,
Roger, line 1, Glenn Evans.
as I remember, we took one of these engines here, we put in Lee Hunter's car right here,
Huh.
in the staging lanes. But that was World Final, Terry Motor Speedway.
Others in the picture.
That was Dickie Estevez. He's the one that took care of that car for 30 plus years, had it, he housed it, had it in his garage. You know, and that would be Johnny Dowie, who at one time owned that car.
Okay. Yep.
For a short while, and we had to get it back after we crashed the one.
Got it. And you in the yellow shirt, of course.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I'm not sure about.
This
It
is.
might have been 76, but that is the same car. It's just it was the year before I worked for him because it doesn't have my name on it. But I was looking in the background. In front of ours, Lee Hunter, and that's Ken Dondero. I like looking at all the guys in the back.
That's awesome.
You know?
That's awesome. Well, John, thank you so much for taking the time. Yeah, we're leaving a motor here with you, so we'll see what becomes of that.
All right.
And yeah, thanks so much. Good to see you.
Thank you.